In today's video, we're going to be going over how to create mixed media effects all within After Effects. We're going to be using a mixed media plugin that I personally think is the best plugin made for After Effects. I'm super excited to show you guys. Let's get right into it. So we're going to be using MXM 2.0 in order to create these mixed media effects. And this plugin was made by Fred, so shout out to him. It's able to create these mixed media effects easily all within After Effects. Also really simple to use and also saves you a bunch of time. And it's really worth it, and I'm about to show you why. Alright, so here in After Effects, I'm going to be creating that mixed media effect using these 3 clips from Sofago's music video. And before we open up the plugin, I'm going to first rotoscope my subject from this first clip and then mask out these 2 layers right here and create a composition with our subject as well as a title card. So I'm going to do that real quick and then we'll be right back. This is what I was able to come up with. I added a title card as well as masked out those 2 video layers, and then we have a rotoscoped layer of our artist. All right, so right when you do that, you want to go to the Windows and then extensions, then open up MXM2. So we're gonna get this little tab right here. So I named this main comp and I'm gonna select that, then click launch. So once you do that, it creates a new composition. And then if you double click the source, it goes into another source. Then you just click the main comp, and then whatever you do in this main comp will appear on the final mixed media look. So right here we have the plugin. It's a beautiful UI. I don't know how he did this, but it looks really dope. And we have all these different settings and it looks pretty, complicated, but it's actually really straightforward. So we have the shake button right here, and that just adds a camera shake to mixed media. I'm gonna actually have that on. And then we have the high res look. Of course, the more you click that, the higher resolution it's going to be on your composition. I'm just going to keep that at the normal settings. I like the way that looks. And then we have the frames per second right here, as well as the resolution and texturize. I like it when it's at 8 frames per second because that's usually the frame rate that looks good for mixed media. I would say anywhere from like 8 to 12 frames. And I'm going to kind of bring down the resolution, bring that to around like 50, and then just kind of bring down texturize in order to get a better look. Then I'm going to go into the actual source, and this is where we have a bunch of different textures for our footage. For the first option is the paper, and then we have craft, which creates more of a cleaner look. There's just so many different settings that you can go for. Gore-Tex, carbon, all of these look really good. I'm just gonna go with craft. I really like that look. And then for the bottom layer, I think that's more for like the shadows of the composition. I'm also gonna keep that at craft. And then there's all these different options for RGB. You can add, the red, green, and blue colors, and then chroma and ink bleed. I'm just gonna have all those off for now except for the noise. And you can also adjust the exposure, saturation, as well as the contrast. And after you go through those different settings, you can go back and we have all these other options that we can do in order to add more texture to our composition. So I'm actually going to go over to halftone because I really like the way that looks. And you can go through the different intensity for the halftone effect. I personally think either 2 or 4 looks the best. You can also change the blending mode, which is really nice. And threshold, I'm gonna actually turn that up a bit, and then maybe just bring down the opacity just by a little. But after doing that, we have so many other options. If you open up the cuts, it adds a bunch of different paper cutout effects to your composition. And of course, you can change the intensity as well as the looks. And then if you go over to the layout, we have all these different looks. So if it wasn't for this plugin, I would actually have to mask out every single part of this composition and also animate it. So when I play this through, the paper cutouts are actually animating. That looks really fire. I can go through different points as well. We have Lego, mixed one, and then we have this really cool one right here, animating circles. Going through the different options in order to show you guys how many different looks that you can get through this plugin. And we also have this really clean UI that's going to show how the effect is going to look on your composition. So I think that looks really dope. I'm going to actually have the cuts off, and you can also go into the colors option, which gives different colors for your composition. I really like the way the pastel looks on my specific composition. Of course, you can adjust saturation as well as the opacity and even the blending mode. I'll just keep mine at normal. Then we can go into the overlays. This is really cool. It creates those scribble effects when it comes to mixed media. I personally really liked the glass option. As you guys can see, we have these like overlays animating. And I also think the data one is really cool as well. So when I play this through, we have those like blob tracking effects going on top of our composition. I'm just gonna keep mine at glass, and then you can even adjust the settings. I'm gonna keep those as it is. And then we're gonna go over to scan lines. I'll show you guys how that looks. So it just creates those like line paper looks on top of our composition. You can actually keep that off. You can even add some spray paint, and I personally really liked Paint 2 the best. I think when it's like on the corners over here, it looks really cool. You can also just change the colors. I'm gonna make mine more blue. That looks good. And then we have this final option right here where it adds borders. We have the frame option where it just adds this extra texture around the borders of our footage. And then you can go through all these different settings in order to find the layout that you're looking for. I'm actually gonna have that off, and I'm gonna go back into the original composition, and I'm gonna add a vignette so that it focuses more on the middle of the composition. For the vignette, I want this to be pretty intense, so I'll increase that to 200 and also just decrease the angle of view. And then if we go back into the main comp, as you guys can see, it creates those darker borders on the edge of our composition. So anything you do when you go into the main composition will show up in the final look for the mixed media effect. And I'm just gonna show you guys how it looks so far. I think that looks really fire. And the final thing that we're gonna do is add a free asset that also comes with the pack. So if you were to purchase the plugin, it comes in with all these free assets right here. I'll just kind of go through how each of them look. And they're also all animated too. I'm gonna add one to my composition. I really like these circle animations. I'm gonna actually go with this first one right here and just drag it into my composition. I'm gonna have it right behind my subject. Actually, I think it'll look better if I had it under this layer right here. Then go back into the main comp. And just like that, we have that animated circle going on in the background. And what I think will make it look better is also have these two text layers animate in at different times. So I'm actually gonna have the name cut in first and then have the title cut in after. And then we go back into the main composition. And after you like the way your mixed media looks, all you have to do is click confirm button and then click yes. And this is what we have for the final look. Super fire, and all I did was click a few buttons and got this really fire mixed media look. If you guys are interested in buying this plugin, I do have a discount code. That way you can save money and also support me as a creator. But that's all I have for now. Appreciate you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video.